So in the last example of using AOVs to make your production more efficient, we're going to look at doing what's called an ID pass. So we'll look ahead to what we're going to get in After Effects. And so we can see we have our normal render, and then we've got another layer that looks like this, just flat colors for every object in the scene. And what we can use this for is to, they're selection masks essentially. So if we want to make a mask that will be just around, this is a single object in my Maya scene, around this one object, we can use the selection mask to select it and put an effect only in this area. This is using something called a Cryptomatte effect, and we can click on a color and it selects it, and if we tell it to be a matted color, then it just uses that layer as a flat matte. So we can now use this with something like an adjustment layer, put it underneath, and the adjustment layer we can set its track matte to Illuma matte. So now if we put an effect on the adjustment layer, like a color correction, hue and saturation or something, and then we can restrict the color change only to this area. So this is kind of an alternative to rendering out in layers with foreground, background, and that sort of thing, because this allows you to have a mask that updates from frame to frame and is linked to each object in your scene. And this is quite easy to do now because Maya comes with, well, Arnold in Maya comes with something called a Cryptomatte AOV, and there's a free plugin that you can add to After Effects to extract Cryptomatte data, and I'll put a link in the description about where you can get that. It's free. It's developed quite a while ago, but now it's now that Cryptomatte comes built into Arnold, it's more useful than ever. So let's go back into Maya and we'll look at how to set this up. So we're just going to do this with a single frame. I'm doing it in my master layer here. Now, of course, you can associate this AOV with any layer, but here under AOVs, I'm just going to get rid of this. But down at the bottom of the available AOVs, there's Crypto Object, Crypto Material, and Crypto Asset. So these are different groups of things. So objects, assets are groups of many things that are bundled together in a type of package. You can get a Cryptomatte based on materials. So every different Arnold shader in your scene can be distinguished with those flat color mattes, and a crypto object here. So in this case, if we do a crypto material, because this object and this object share the same material, they would have a single mask, single color for their mask. Crypto object will separate every object to a different color. So I'm just going to go somewhere in the timeline where we can see the hero cell. Yeah, okay, that's good. And so we want to add the crypto object, Cryptomatte, to the active AOVs, and it just gets added like anything else. And we are going to render this out just like we normally would. And we will go to, just change the frame number, start frame 64, end frame 64. And we'll just do a quick render sequence. Okay, so if we now go into After Effects, now let's create a new project. and we bring in the files that were just created. So here I'm in the beauty folder, so this is the actual RGB image. So there's number 64, bring that in. Double click in here and we'll go to the crypto object. Let's look at this in details. Number 64, import that. So now we'll take the RGB image and just drag it into a new composition, and then we'll take the Cryptomatte render. So this is the AOV, and to extract this information we go to Effect, 3D Channel, Cryptomatte, and again you have to install this yourself in the plugins folder, and it will automatically give us something that looks like this. And so it's just giving us a flat color that distinguishes one object from another. Now if you had asked for both or all of Cryptomatte, Crypto Material, or sorry, Crypto Object, Crypto Material, Crypto Asset, then when you get to After Effects and you click on the Cryptomatte option, so just click on the word layer, this comes up and you can choose one of those three. Now I only have one AOV in this EXR, so I'll just select this one, say OK. And now if I want to, let's say, make a matte for the hero cell, I can click on it, and so it shows it in white and everything else still remains here. However, the output here is set to colors, and this is really just for pre-visualization so you can see what you're selecting. But when you want to use it as a matte, you want to get rid of everything else except for this white spot that corresponds, in this case, to the hero cell. So we can change this to matted colors. Matches up. And now we can use this for anything really. It's a moving mask that follows this object. So like I showed earlier, we can go to Layer, New, create an adjustment layer. And so adjustment layer we put under the masking layer. And then you have to change this attribute called Track Matte. And so there's a drop down menu here, and you see there's not one for the top layer. And that's because the Track Matte has to look at the layer above it and get information from it to know how to reveal itself. So if I click on the Track Matte drop down for the adjustment layer, I can turn this into a Luma Matte, which means the effects of the adjustment layer will only be felt where the layer above it is perfectly white. In areas where it's black, there's no effect for the adjustment layer. And if there were layers of gray or levels of gray, it would go somewhere in between. So it would be a control on the strength of an effect. So now in the adjustment layer, I'll just do the same one that I did before. I can go to color correction, hue and saturation, and let's say I just want to change the color of this. I can shift this to whatever I want, and it's ensuring that the effects are only felt on this object. I can colorize it. Change the saturation, lightness, whatever. But the idea is that we can change these things individually. Now, if we wanted to do the same thing for, let's say, these cells, we'd have to organize these probably into separate nested pre-comps, because an adjustment layer will have its effects felt on everything below it. So if I put another adjustment layer above this one with another Cryptomatte, its effects would go everywhere below. But we can do that. Let's try. So we need this Cryptomatte again. I'm just going to duplicate it. So Control D and go back to colors, and this time I'll select these cells, go back to matted colors, and I'll do another adjustment layer, put it underneath, set my track matte to Luma, and then let's say I add an effect. Let's say channels, or no, sorry, color correction again, curves, let's say. Right, so it's only affecting the part that is masked out by this. So we can use this to control how our effects are working. So ultimately, the real power of using an ID pass like this, so an object ID, but using this plugin called Cryptomatte that's built into Arnold, is that we don't really have to render into foreground, midground, background, separating out the hero cell that goes behind, sometimes in front at other times. We can instead just choose to use the Cryptomatte to select those things. So just as another example, let's say I wanted to blur out the background and the midground. I could do that. I'll just duplicate the Cryptomatte layer again, and I'm going to turn it on so we can see it. Colors. So let's say I want to select this one, shift select the background, so now we have both of them, and we can go to add another adjustment layer, put it under the Cryptomatte layer. Cryptomatte layer I have to set to matted colors, so we're just getting a mask on the background objects now. And so adjustment layer 3, like I said, it's track matte to Luma, and it hides the layer above it. And let's say I put a blur on this. So I can selectively blur out the background using that mask, even though we're just dealing with a single flat layer. We haven't separated anything out. And so there's a lot of power here. It's not going to work in every situation, but a lot of cases, exporting a Cryptomatte with your Beauty Pass will allow you to solve a lot of problems, do a lot of interesting color correction, adding blur, adding noise in some areas. So it's worth investigating. Again, you have to download the Cryptomatte plugin for After Effects, but it now comes bundled with Arnold 5. Okay, thanks.